"You don't deserve my grandfather's money," my father said, watching my diploma burn. I smiled and left. At the lawyer's office next week, they discovered why I'd been so calm. I should explain something first. In my family, there were two types of children: the investment and the afterthought. My older brother Daniel was the investment. Private lacrosse coaches at 12, SAT tutors at 15, a BMW on his 16th birthday with a bow so big the neighbors came outside to watch. Me, I got his hand-me-down textbooks and a savings account my parents drained when I was 9 to pay for his hockey camp. I always came second to them. When Grandpa Joe noticed, he didn't say anything. He just started showing up. Every Thursday after school, he'd take me for pie at this little diner off Route 9. He'd ask about my grades, my teachers, which colleges I was researching. When I got into engineering school on a full scholarship, he cried. My parents didn't come to the acceptance dinner. Daniel had a networking event. Grandpa passed 8 months ago, lung cancer. He held my hand in that hospital room and said something I didn't understand at the time. He said, "Don't react when they show you who they are. Just watch. The paperwork is already done." I thought he was confused from the morphine. At the funeral, my father pulled me aside before the service even started. He told me Grandpa left me a small trust. Nothing crazy, maybe $60,000. He said the right thing to do would be signing it over to Daniel, who was launching a tech startup and needed seed money. I asked to see the will first. He said that wasn't necessary. I should have known then. For months, I kept my head down. Finished my senior year, landed a job at a civil engineering firm starting at $74,000. Not tech startup money, but real money. Mine. Then came graduation weekend. My parents threw a backyard party, 50 guests, catered. My mother even hired a bartender. I thought maybe something had shifted. Maybe they finally saw me. That's when my father walked outside holding my diploma. The actual framed diploma I'd hung in my childhood bedroom that morning. He announced to everyone that I'd been hiding my inheritance from the family, that Grandpa had made a mistake leaving me anything at all, that I needed to do the right thing tonight. I said no. He flicked his lighter. For about 30 seconds, nobody moved. The caterers froze mid-pour. My Aunt Helen set down her wine glass so slowly it didn't make a sound. Daniel was already filming. The frame caught first, then the paper. 4 years of 4 a.m. study sessions, $80,000 in avoided debt, a future I built with my own hands. I stood there watching it curl and blacken, everything I'd worked for turning to ash. My mother watched like it was mildly inconvenient, like he'd burned a receipt. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just looked at my father's red face, my brother's smirking grin, my mother's lipstick-perfect indifference, and I said, "Okay, I'll see you at the lawyer's office Monday." Nobody understood why I was smiling. The truth is, Grandpa knew exactly who his son had become. 2 years before he died, he hired a separate attorney, not the family lawyer, someone completely outside their circle. He restructured everything. The trust my father mentioned, that was a decoy, a test, $62,000 in a revocable account they could see but never touch. The real inheritance was in a separate filing. The house my parents had lived in for 31 years was never in their name. It was in Grandpa's. Now it was in mine. So was the lake house. So was the 44% stake in the family business my father had been running like it was already his. That Monday, the lawyer read the actual will out loud. Every word. My father's face went from confused to gray in about 90 seconds. My mother kept whispering, "This isn't right. This isn't right," like repeating it would change the documents. Daniel had his phone out scrolling through something. He stopped. His thumb hovered. He said, "You wrote my Yale essay." My father said this wasn't the time. Daniel's voice went flat. "I found the draft in your study when I was 17. Your handwriting." He looked at me. "I got into Yale and I didn't even apply." He kept scrolling, reading dates out loud. Senior thesis. Recommendation letters, the business plan from last month. His hands started shaking. He stood up, grabbed his laptop bag from the floor, and headed for the door. My father blocked his path. Daniel shoved him hard enough that my father stumbled backward into the desk. The lawyer cleared his throat. "Gentlemen, we still have documents to sign." Daniel was already out the door. My father tried to follow, but the attorney's assistant stood up. This woman who couldn't have been more than 25, and she just positioned herself in the doorway with a stack of folders in her arms. My father looked at her, then back at me, then sat down. The lawyer slid a manila envelope across the table. "These are the eviction papers for the primary residence. You have 60 days from today's date to vacate." He pushed another envelope. "These are for the lake house property. Same terms." My mother made a sound like she'd been hit. My father picked up the first envelope, turned it over in his hands like it might be blank on the other side. "This is our home," my mother said. Her voice was small. I'd never heard it like that. "We've lived there for 31 years. "It was never your home," I said. "It was Grandpa's. Now it's mine." My father looked up. "How long have you known?" "Since the day after the funeral. I've been waiting to see what you'd do." He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "You've been planning this for 8 months?" "No," I said. "Grandpa planned it for 2 years. I just didn't get in the way. The lawyer reviewed the signature pages with my mother, showing her where to initial, but she wasn't looking at the papers. She was looking at me. "We're your parents," she said. "Doesn't that mean anything to you?" I thought about the savings account, the textbooks with Daniel's notes still in the margins, the acceptance dinner they skipped, the diploma burning in the backyard while 50 people watched. I thought about Grandpa's hand in mine in that hospital room, how he'd squeezed it when he told me the paperwork was done. "It means exactly as much as I meant to you," I said. My father called their family attorney from the parking lot. I know because he called me right after, furious, demanding to know why Attorney Morrison had never seen the complete estate documents. I told him Morrison wasn't Grandpa's lawyer. Grandpa used someone else entirely, someone my father had never met. There was a long silence on the phone. Then he said, "Your grandfather deliberately cut us out." "No," I said. "He cut you out. He made sure I was taken care of. There's a difference." He hung up. That night I couldn't sleep, so I drove to the house around 2 a.m., just to look at it, you know? It was strange seeing it with different eyes, like I'd walked past it 1,000 times and never noticed it was actually mine. The garage code was still the same, 4277, Grandpa's birthday. I changed it standing there in the driveway, watching the keypad glow green with the new numbers. I don't know what made me go inside the garage. Maybe I wanted to see if they'd started packing yet. They hadn't. But what I found instead made my hands go numb. The entire back wall was stacked with storage bins, those clear plastic ones from Home Depot, and every single one had a label, my name, my birth date, written in my mother's handwriting. I pulled the first one down. Inside were consignment receipts, the kind you get from those resale shops, dated from when I was 3 years old. My crib, the changing table Grandpa bought when I was born, a rocking chair, sold for $340 total. The date matched Daniel's first tuition payment to Montessori. The next bin had toys, my toys. The stuffed elephant Grandpa won me at a carnival, a wooden train set, all logged and sold, $180. The date was 2 weeks before Daniel's hockey camp. The third bin made me sit down on the concrete floor, a coin collection, the kind Grandpa started for me when I was 6, adding a silver dollar every birthday. The receipt said $2,800. The buyer was a collector in Maine. The date was Daniel's 14th birthday. I remembered that birthday. They rented out a restaurant. I sat there for maybe an hour, pulling bins down, reading receipts. My entire childhood liquidated and redistributed to fund my brothers. There were 23 bins total. I took photos of every single one. When I got home, there were 6 missed calls from my father. No voicemails, just calls at 20-minute intervals like he thought I'd answer if he was persistent enough. I blocked the number and went to bed. 3 days later, Daniel showed up at my apartment. It was past midnight. I heard the knocking and checked the peephole before opening it. Honestly thought it might be my father, but it was Daniel, and he looked like hell. His eyes were red. His shirt was wrinkled. He smelled like he'd been drinking, but not drunk, just enough to be honest. "Can I come in?" he asked. I opened the door wider. He walked past me into the living room and just stood there looking around like he'd never seen an apartment before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd only ever seen the expensive ones our parents paid for. "I've been living in my car for 2 weeks, he said. He wasn't looking at me. He was looking at my bookshelf, at the engineering textbooks I'd bought used, the ones with highlighter from 3 previous students. The startup was fake. "I know," I said. He turned around. "You know? Daniel, you posted about client meetings on Instagram at places that don't do meetings. You tagged yourself at a WeWork in Boston that closed 8 months before your post." "Yeah, I knew." He sat down on my couch without asking, put his head in his hands. "They've been paying my rent for 3 years, all my expenses, everything. They told me to pretend I was independent, successful. They'd send me scripts for phone calls, emails, even social media captions. They coached me on what to say in job interviews I never got called back from." "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I don't know how to do anything." His voice cracked. "I don't know how to get a real job or pay bills or exist like a normal person. I'm 26 years old and I've never completed a single thing myself. Not one thing." I went to the kitchen and got him water. When I came back, he was looking at his phone, scrolling through something with shaking hands. He held it out to me. Text messages from our father, hundreds of them. Instructions on what to wear to an interview, what to say when someone asked about his experience. Scripts for networking events, word for word. A message from 4 days ago. "If they ask about the gap in your resume, say you were consulting independently. I'll send you the client list to memorize." He wrote everything, Daniel said. "Every accomplishment on my resume is something they paid for or fabricated. The summer internship at Dad's friend's firm, I played Xbox in an empty office for 3 months. The award from that business competition, Dad donated $10,000 to the organization 2 weeks before I entered. Even my Yale essay, my fucking Yale essay." I sat down across from him. "So what do you want from me? Can I sleep on your couch tonight?" he asked. Just tonight. I'll figure something out tomorrow. I gave him a pillow and blanket. When I woke up the next morning, he was still there, sitting up, scrolling through his phone. He'd been crying. There were old photos open, ones from when we were kids, him in his hockey uniform, me in the background, always in the background, holding someone's coat or water bottle. "Look at this," he said, and showed me a screenshot. It was a text from our father, dated 3 months ago. "Remember, when the investor asks about your technical experience, redirect to leadership philosophy. You don't need to know how the product works, you just need to sound like you're above those details. I'll send talking points." He scrolled to another one. "Post this on LinkedIn tonight. Grateful to announce our partnership with X. Couldn't have done it without my incredible team. Don't mention that the partnership fell through. Perception is reality." He kept scrolling, reading them out loud. Instructions on what to post on social media to make it look like he had clients. Scripts for phone calls to make it seem like he was busy. Even staged photos to take at coffee shops, so his LinkedIn would look active. Our father had been puppeteering Daniel's entire adult life, and Daniel had been too deep in it to realize he was just a puppet. "They made you feel worthless," Daniel said, looking at me. "They made me actually worthless. I don't know which is worse." I didn't have an answer for that. He stayed on my couch for 3 more days. Didn't ask, just stayed. I didn't push it. On the 4th day, I came home from work and my mother was standing in the lobby of my apartment building. She had 3 other people with her. My Aunt Helen, who I hadn't seen since the funeral, Uncle Rob, and some woman I didn't recognize, maybe a family friend. They all looked at me like I just walked in on an intervention, because I had. "We need to talk," my mother said. "All of us." The building manager, George, this guy who'd seen me haul furniture up 4 flights of stairs when I moved in, looked at me with raised eyebrows. I nodded and he unlocked the community room, this depressing space with folding chairs and a coffee maker that hadn't worked since 2019. We all filed in. My mother sat down first, arranged herself like she was posing for a photo. The others sat around her. "This has gone far enough," she started. "You're tearing this family apart over money, over inheritance." Aunt Helen corrected, but quietly, like she wasn't sure she should be talking. "Over greed," my mother snapped. "Joe left him that money to help the family, not to destroy it." I pulled out my phone, opened the video Daniel had posted, the one of my diploma burning. I turned the screen toward them and hit play. My father's voice came through tinny but clear. "You need to do the right thing tonight." Then the lighter, then the frame catching fire. My mother's face in the background, watching, doing nothing. The woman I didn't recognize stood up and left, just walked out without saying a word. Uncle Rob followed her. Aunt Helen stayed, but she wouldn't look at my mother. "That's out of context," my mother said. "What context makes that okay?" I asked. She didn't answer. Instead, she pulled out papers from her purse, printouts of the eviction notice, and slid them across the table. "You're kicking us out of our home. Your father and I raised you in that house." "Grandpa's house," I said. "And you raised Daniel. I was just there." Aunt Helen made a sound, something between a laugh and a cough. My mother shot her a look that could have stripped paint. "This is family business, Helen." "Then why did you bring me here?" Helen asked. She stood up. "I came because you said he was being unreasonable. You didn't mention the part where you burned his college diploma at a party." She looked at me. "I'm sorry. I didn't know." She left. My mother sat there alone at the folding table in a community room that smelled like old coffee and disappointment. "You have 60 days, I said. "That's what the law requires. That's what you're getting." I walked out. She didn't follow. The 30-day mark came faster than I expected. I scheduled a walkthrough of the house, just to see if they'd started preparing. I brought a checklist the lawyer had given me, things to photograph for documentation. The lock still worked with my new code. I let myself in through the garage. Nothing had been touched. Not one box packed. The storage bins with my name on them were still stacked against the wall. I walked through the kitchen, dishes in the sink, mail on the counter, unopened bills mostly, a few marked "Final Notice" in red. The living room looked the same as it had my entire childhood. Same couch, same TV, same wedding photo of my parents on the wall, both of them young and smiling like they'd never heard the word regret. I found my father in his office upstairs. He was at his computer, scrolling through apartment listings. He didn't look up when I walked in. "You're early," he said. "You haven't packed anything. We're looking for a place. You have 30 days left." He clicked to another listing, a 1-bedroom in a complex 40 minutes away. The rent was $1,950 a month. He scrolled to the application requirements. First month, last month, security deposit. $5,850 just to get in the door. "We have $11,000 in savings," he said. "We need that for the moving truck, deposits for utilities, all the things you don't think about until you have to move for the first time in 31 years. "Not my problem," I said. He finally looked at me. "Can we have an extension?" 6 months. "We'll pay you rent, whatever's fair market value." "No." 3 months then. "No." "You're really going to put us on the street? You're really going to pretend you don't deserve it?" He turned back to his computer. I left him there, scrolling through apartments he couldn't afford. My mother was in the master bedroom, sitting on the bed surrounded by papers, bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. She looked up when I came in and her eyes were dry. She'd been crying earlier, I could tell, but right now she was just numb. "Did you know?" she asked. "Know what?" She held up a credit card statement. My name was on it. The account was opened when I was 17, 12 months before I graduated high school. $18,000 in charges. Paid off in full in 2019, right around the time I would have been applying for my first credit cards as an adult. If I'd checked my credit report, I would have seen an account I never opened, a debt I never owed, mysteriously resolved. "We used your trust fund to pay it off," she said. "The one you didn't know about yet, the one Joe set up when you were born." I took the statement from her. Charges at athletic stores, sports equipment retailers, a payment to Yale for something labeled student account fee. They'd stolen from my future to cover up fraud they'd committed against my past, and they'd used my brother as the excuse. "Why are you telling me this?" I asked. "Because I think you should know what we did." She folded her hands in her lap. "We made choices, bad choices, but we made them because we believed in Daniel. We believed if we gave him everything, he'd become something great, and he'd take care of all of us. And me? You were always so independent," she said. Like that explained it. Like me surviving their neglect was proof I didn't need them. I left the house before I said something I couldn't take back. Daniel was at my apartment when I got home, sitting on the couch with his laptop open. He'd been applying for jobs, real ones, entry-level stuff he was qualified for even without the fabricated resume. Retail management, administrative assistant positions. He looked up when I walked in. "I got an interview," he said. "It's at a Verizon store. Sales associate, $15 an hour." "That's good," I said. "Dad called me 17 times today." He showed me his phone. 17 missed calls, all from the same number. "He wants me to let them move in with me." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I don't have an apartment. I've been living in my car. They've been paying rent on an empty lease for 3 months because I was too embarrassed to tell them I lost the apartment." He laughed, but it sounded wrong. "Mom called me ungrateful. Can you believe that? She found out they've been paying $2,100 a month for an apartment I haven't lived in since September, and she called me ungrateful." He closed his laptop. I called her back. I told her she didn't raise me, she bought me, and she got a defective product. Then I hung up. "How did that feel?" I asked. "Terrible," he said. And also like I should have said it 10 years ago. He got the job at Verizon, started the following week. I let him stay on my couch until he saved enough for a deposit on a room in a shared house. 3 other guys, $600 a month. It wasn't much, but it was his. He paid for it with money he earned. I helped him move in, and when we were carrying his stuff up the stairs, he stopped halfway and just stood there holding a box of clothes. "I've never done this before," he said. "Moved into a place I'm paying for." "It's just stairs," I said. "No, I mean, I've never been accountable for anything. If I don't pay rent, I'm out. If I don't show up for work, I'm fired. Everything actually has consequences now." He looked at me. "How did you do this at 18? I didn't have a choice." He nodded and kept climbing. The 45-day mark, I changed the locks on the house. It was legal. The eviction notice included a clause about property access during the final 2 weeks, and I was allowed to secure the premises as long as I provided 24-hour notice for my parents to retrieve essential items. I didn't tell them I was changing the locks. I just did it. My mother found out when she tried to pack up her medication. She called me screaming, actually screaming, that her blood pressure pills were inside and she needed them. I had them delivered to her within an hour, used a courier service, paid extra for same day. When the courier confirmed delivery, I got another call from my mother. "I lied," she said. "I wanted to get inside before the estate sale people catalog everything." "I know," I said, and hung up. The estate sale company came the next day. 2 women, both probably in their 50s, with tablets and measuring tapes and an app that logged every item in the house. They took photos of everything: furniture, dishes, the contents of closets and drawers. They found things I'd forgotten existed. Grandpa's war medals in a box in the basement, tarnished but intact. First edition books on a shelf in the study, some of them worth $300, $400 each. His wedding ring in my mother's jewelry box. "These items weren't listed in the estate inventory," the older woman said. She had glasses on a chain around her neck. "Do you know why?" "They were sold," I said. "Or supposed to be sold. My parents have been liquidating things for years." She made a note on her tablet. "We'll need to verify provenance and document everything for the estate. Some of these items, if they were sold without proper authority, that's legally complicated." They cataloged $40,000 worth of Grandpa's belongings that my parents had either sold or were planning to sell. Every cent had gone to maintaining the appearance of wealth. New cars every 3 years, vacations to resorts. Daniel's apartment in the city, the one he wasn't living in. They'd been drowning in debt while pretending to swim. 1 week before the eviction date, my father asked to meet me at the diner, the one where Grandpa used to take me for pie. I almost said no, but something made me go. Maybe I wanted to see if he'd finally understand. Maybe I just wanted pie. He was already there when I arrived, sitting in the same booth Grandpa always chose, the one by the window with the view of the parking lot. He'd ordered coffee. It sat in front of him, untouched. probably cold. I slid into the seat across from him. The waitress came over, same woman who used to serve me and Grandpa, and she smiled at me like she remembered. "The usual?" she asked. I nodded. She brought me coconut cream pie and coffee without asking what the usual was. She knew. My father watched her walk away. "He used to bring you here every Thursday," I said. "I didn't know that. You didn't ask." He looked at his coffee, at the window, at the laminated menu he wasn't going to order from, anywhere but at me. "We never saved for retirement," he said finally. "Every spare dollar went to Daniel. The coaches, the schools, the tutors, the apartment, all of it. We thought if we invested everything in him, he'd make it, and he'd take care of us when we were older. And now?" I asked. "Now he's working at Verizon for $15 an hour and we have 1 week to find an apartment we can't afford." He finally looked at me. "What do you want us to do?" I took a bite of pie. It tasted exactly like it always had, like Thursday afternoons when someone actually cared if I was okay. "I want you to figure it out yourselves, like I did. We're your parents. You were my parents," I said. "Now you're just two people who have 7 days to move out of my house." He left cash on the table for the coffee he didn't drink and walked out. I finished my pie alone. Daniel called me that night. "They've contacted me 17 times today," he said. He sounded exhausted. Texts, calls, voicemails. Dad even showed up at the Verizon store during my shift. My manager had to ask him to leave. "What do they want?" "They want me to fix this. They want me to talk to you, convince you to give them more time. Dad told me it's my fault they're in this situation because I'm not successful enough to support them." He laughed, sharp and bitter. "I'm not successful enough. Me, the guy they built from scratch." "What did you say?" I told him I'm not their retirement plan. I told him I'm barely keeping myself together and they need to figure out their own lives. Then Mom got on the phone and said I was being selfish, that family takes care of each other. So I asked her when she was planning to start, because she's got 26 years of taking care of me to make up for. How'd that go? She hung up. Then she called back 5 minutes later and asked if they could move in with me. I had to explain again that I live in a house with 3 roommates and I sleep on a futon in a room the size of their walk-in closet. She said I was lying to punish them. I sent her a photo of my room. She called me ungrateful. He was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I'm coming to the house on eviction day." "Why?" "Because I want to watch," he said. "I spent 2 years in therapy learning that they didn't love me. They loved the idea of me, the version they paid for. I need to see them face what they built." Eviction day was a Tuesday. I'd hired a moving company to pack everything and put it in storage, a climate-controlled unit I was paying for, 1 month included in the service. After that, they'd have to make arrangements themselves or their belongings would be auctioned. I got to the house at 9 a.m. The moving truck was already there. My parents were still inside. Surrounded by boxes, they'd finally started packing, but not nearly enough, not even close. The movers waited on the lawn, professional, patient, getting paid by the hour. I walked up to the front door and knocked. My mother opened it. Her eyes were red. She'd been crying on and off for what looked like days. "We're not ready," she said. "That's not my problem. We have nowhere to go." Her voice broke. "No family will take us. We can't afford an apartment. Daniel won't help. We have nowhere." My father appeared behind her. He looked smaller than I remembered, older. He'd aged a decade in 2 months. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "You want us to beg? Fine. I'm begging. Please, give us 1 more month, 2 weeks, anything." I looked at both of them standing in the doorway of a house that had never actually been theirs, holding garbage bags because they'd run out of boxes, facing the consequences of choices they'd made for 24 years. "I want you to understand what it feels like to need your family and realize they don't care," I said. A car pulled up behind the moving truck. Daniel got out. My parents' faces changed immediately, hope lighting up in my mother's eyes like he was there to save them. He walked across the lawn in his Verizon polo shirt, name tag still on, and stopped next to me. "Daniel," my father said, and his voice was different, softer, the voice he used when he needed something. "Thank God you're here. Can you talk to—" "I'm here to watch," Daniel said. The hope drained from my mother's face. My father tried to step forward, tried to reach for Daniel, maybe to hug him or grab him or just make some physical contact that would remind Daniel they were family. Daniel stepped back, hands at his sides. "Don't," he said. "Son, I spent 2 years in therapy learning that you didn't love me. You loved the idea of me, the version you paid for, the one that was supposed to make you look good and take care of you and validate every dollar you spent." Daniel's voice was steady, flat, like he'd practiced this. "You wrote my essays. You fabricated my resume. You scripted my life like I was a character in a play you were producing. And when the show flopped, you blamed me for not performing well enough." My father's hand dropped. "We gave you everything. You gave me nothing," Daniel said. "You bought me things. You bought opportunities and accomplishments and the appearance of success. But you never gave me the chance to actually become anything real." He looked at me, then back at them. "You spent 24 years making them feel worthless, and 26 years making me actually worthless. You don't deserve either of us. The moving crew started loading boxes. My mother stood in the doorway watching them carry out her life in cardboard and plastic bins. My father tried one more time. Where are we supposed to go? I pulled the keys from my pocket, the new keys to the new locks, and held them up so they could see. Then I walked to the front door, my parents moving aside automatically. Years of me being invisible making them step out of my way without thinking. I locked the door. The deadbolt clicked into place with a sound like finality. Daniel and I walked to our cars together. Behind us, our parents stood in the driveway holding garbage bags, watching both their children walk away.